Hello, my name's Rachel and I work for the Step 2 Young People's Health Charity in Bradford, and this video is about hate crimes. The definition of a hate crime is a crime typically involving violence that is motivated by prejudice on the basis of race, religion, sexual orientation, or other grounds. So the following are examples of actual hate crimes. They could be assaults, criminal damage, harassment, murder, sexual assault, theft, fraud, burglary, hate mail, causing harassment, alarm or distress. We'll look at some examples of some of these later. Hate crimes based on any of the following characteristics: where the victim has a disability, where the victim is of a different race or of a different religion, where the victim has transgender identity, or where the victim is of a different sexual orientation than the perpetrator. According to the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, in the last 12 months, 86% of people taken to court for hate crime either admit committing it or they were found guilty by a jury or judge, and therefore justice was served. There are other hate incidents that could occur. It could be verbal abuse like name calling or offensive jokes, harassment, bullying or intimidation, physical attacks, threats of violence, hoax calls, abusive phone or text messages, hate mail, abuse online, displaying or circulating discriminatory literature or posters, harm or damage to things such as your home, your pet, your vehicle, graffiti, arson, throwing rubbish into people's gardens, malicious complaints, for example, over parking, smells or noise. They are all legitimate reasons. They are all things that have been recorded as hate incidents in the UK in the last 12 months. It's important to report hate crime. If we don't report it, we allow it to continue and it could escalate. What started as throwing our rubbish in somebody's garden could become graffitiing on the walls, putting their windows through as criminal damage, or worse. If you're in immediate danger, you should call 999. However, if the incident's already happened and you just want to make the police aware of it, you can contact 101. If you're a victim, please report it. If you're a witness, you also hold a responsibility and you could report it too. There are other organisations who support affected communities. Stop Hate UK will support anybody who's been a victim of a hate crime. Tell Mama support the Muslim community who've been victims. Community Security Trust support Jewish people who've been victims. GALOP support LGBTQ+ people who've been victims of hate crime. True Vision will support every victim. In Wales, there's victim support. So here are some of the examples I mentioned earlier. The first picture is of a Chinese man who lives in America. He has settled there. He has an American passport. At the beginning of the pandemic and for a while throughout it, there was a lot of information that China had caused the coronavirus, that they'd grown it in a lab. This was all misinformation and fake news as far as we are aware. But it didn't stop a lot of hate and a lot of anger rising against Chinese nationals and the Chinese community in America. And this man was assaulted just for the fact that he's Chinese. People were shouting at him that he'd caused the coronavirus and it was his fault that lots of people were dead. I'm sure many people will recognise Marcus Rashford there. He and others were very badly racially abused at the end of the Euro 2020 campaign after an unsuccessful penalty. And unfortunately, Marcus is a young man. He's been able to see around the racist abuse. He's done an awful lot for young people in this country in terms of free school meals. But still, there were those who chose to racially abuse him because of a couple of minutes on a football pitch. The next one, this is still being investigated by the police as far as I'm aware. This only took place in June 2021 and it's an example of malicious hate mail. These were posted to a number of households in York. We have won Brexit. It's time for you to go back wherever you came from. We don't need foreigners taking our housing, our jobs, our GP places. We won't be happy until you people leave our country. Now, we can assume that the person does not know this family because he's called them the occupier rather than saying it's for Mr. and Mrs. whoever. This is racist. These people might have settled status in this country. They might be considered to be in vital jobs in this country where they have visas. This person has just looked at the colour of somebody's skin and said, you don't belong here, you're creating the problem, and that's totally unacceptable. The young lady in the bottom left corner, she has Down syndrome. She is therefore classed as disabled. He spat in my face because he thought I looked different. You've got the two women in the middle there. They are a lesbian couple. They were travelling home one evening on a London bus and a group of youths got on. They said they must have kissed or held hands or something, which made these young men realise that they were a couple. The youths were between 15 and 17 and they started making sexualised gestures towards the women. They were asking them to kiss, asking them to touch each other. The women, of course, refused, and unfortunately they were both attacked as a result. The last one is an example of some painting that was done for Pride, and that Pride flag was painted over and graffitied over. Proud to be better than that. That's anti-LGBT sentiment. Proud to be better than what? These people are not bad just because they're gay. Okay, but that has been defaced, so that is an example of another hate crime. Lastly, we've got some organisations that may be able to help and support. Step 2 is the charity that I work for. We are a mental health and sexual health charity based in Bradford. We work in collaboration with James and Hale to deliver relationships and sex education across the Bradford district. West Yorkshire Police, obviously if you're reporting hate crime, that's who you would speak to. If you want to do it anonymously, you can do it through Crime Stoppers. The police could organise victim support for you if you have been a victim of a hate crime, and Amnesty International have some information on their website about various hate crimes and the effect that it can have on people.